Hey everybody, this is a sort of video demonstration on how I've been using my Silhouette Cameo cutting machine specifically to create glitter appliques for ironing onto fabric. You can also watch this video without the voiceover. There are also subtitles. Here you can see I am borrowing the USITT logo from their website, and I'm going to go through the process of taking that little JPEG and creating a cut file. First thing I have to do is what's called trace the image. The best images are black and white, or in this case the red is working just fine. White on black images don't read as well, the cut just gets confused. This is the point editor where you can make really tiny fine-tune adjustments. Here I'm actually taking off that kind of strange rectangle side that came with the screenshot. And then I'm also going to go in and adjust the edges of that T so that it's not quite so close to that cut edge. Sometimes the really tiny spaces get a little bit messy, or they can tear when you're weeding it. But it does have pretty good accuracy, this material, for little corners and little things. So of course you can resize and reposition all of these images. Now because this is a logo with text, and this particular material that I'm using, I need to do a reverse cut rather than a correctly oriented one. Different materials you can cut straight on. It just depends on which material you're working with. Here I've saved that cut file. You can see it in the library there. See, I'm just checking my cut settings there, making some adjustments. I'm going to get rid of that one that's straight and bring back the reverse image. You can also use just the text tool to create letters, words, phrases, monograms, any text that you have on your computer you can use for this. I've learned that the really complicated ones just don't cut as well out of any material. The thicker, blockier ones tend to do a little bit better. And when you're cutting out of one material, like I'm doing for this demonstration, you can put multiple images on one of these cut screens and cut them together at one time rather than doing each little piece individually. When I'm working with garments that have a lot of repeats, like a lot of appliques, the same ones over and over again, you can really tile them together and fill the page up so that you're not wasting much material. Here I'm just bringing in a couple of different pieces just to use for the demo. You do want to keep your images within that sort of bounding box on the page there. If you get too close to the edge, sometimes it doesn't cut properly, so I've just learned to stay inside those lines. This is of course a time-lapse video of this particular cut file. I took the sound off, but it sounds a lot like a very loud printer. It is quieter when you have the lid closed, but it's harder to see that way. And I am using the cutting mat for this particular material, although I don't actually have to. You'll see when I weed it that this material has a plastic layer to it that is not cut when you cut it with the correct settings. And that little blue thing in there, that's the blade. It is removable so that you can adjust the settings on it. So I'm going to show you how to weed this. So I pull that off. You can see that shiny side, that's the plastic. Right here I'm just cutting away the excess so that I can keep that for later and use it for another piece. As long as you're using the cutting mat, you can put jagged pieces on there. It's just a matter of making sure you're placing the location of your cuts coordinated with the piece you're cutting it out of. A couple little tools there that I'm using. There's a little weeding tool and a scraper, and they're pretty handy, especially for these tiny pieces. Sort of like a little curved needle, just pulls that up. So I've done two of these USITT logos, and then here's the other piece, and I've got a couple of flourish kind of decorative images. You can see it's tearing a little bit as I'm pulling it off. I haven't had any trouble with this stuff tearing with the appliques. It just seems that the negative spaces that I'm peeling off will sometimes tear. And now with this material, you're going to use this plastic when you iron it on. You'll see that in a little bit. So we're not actually pulling off the pieces that we're using, we're pulling off all the negative space. You can see I cut Jimmy backwards. Following the manufacturer's instructions, I'm using 100% polyester fabric. These are really best used with a heat press, but lacking a heat press, I've developed this method. I have a pretty stiff board there, I think it's masonite, and I've got that covered with ironing board fabric and then a layer or two of baby flannel so that I can really create some pressure with my iron. And I am just using my home domestic iron here, but of course your nicer gravity feed shop iron would work very well. That USITT lettering that I'm using there, that was what I weeded out of one of these logos. So you can see you can still use it in this method, but having the plastic keeps everything aligned really well. This is a Teflon press cloth that I have come to rely on for all of this work. Nothing sticks to it. Even if you iron something to it, you can peel it right off, and it really protects the fabric. In order to get these ironed on properly, you've got to have your iron set up really high, but as you know, most of this polyester fabric would scorch with the iron at this heat. So the Teflon really helps distribute that heat evenly so that I can use this polyester fabric without scorching it. So now that I have it pretty well ironed on, I can peel off that plastic layer gently. And it's best to peel this particular material while it's still warm. It's a little bit easier to take off. And then I go ahead and give everything a little bit more heat and pressure just to really get that adhesive to set into the fabric. And there is the finished logo. All done. I hope that gives you a pretty good idea of the process of creating glitter appliques for garments. Thanks for watching.